What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a top 10 R&B gems brought to us by a friend and supporter of the channel, AnCatDub. Appreciate you, AnCatDub, everything that you bring to the channel, and all the patrons. The patrons make this thing go, guys. If you check out our Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's jump into this. AnCatDub said it's more a survey than a top 10 list with plenty of funk and soul as well. So I always have to come up with titles for these. It's not very easy. And Kat came up with R&B gems, and I think that works for this one. I've already done the research for it. Look forward to it. I've already learned a lot through the research, so I'm looking forward to listening to these songs. If you haven't joined us before, the music will not be in the video, but it will be in a Vimeo link below, so check that out and watch along with this. Let's get started. And first up, it's a top 10, but AnCatDub didn't rank them 1 through 10, right? So our first selection is Let's Go, It's Summertime, in parentheses, by James Reese and the Progressions. I could not find anything on this, but thankfully AnCatDub did. They said James Reese and the Progressions were a New York R&B/soul/proto-funk band in search of a major record deal. When their efforts to get signed went nowhere, the group eventually disbanded. There's now an album titled Wait For Me, The Complete Works, 1967 through 1972, that gathers together all known recordings. James Reese wrote 2 great funk instrumentals, Let's Go, It's Summertime, and Jody's Freeze, which deserves a place in everyone's R&B soul funk playlist. One other bit of info about James Reese, a YouTube post mentions the following. James Reese was a public school band director during those years, and during his breaks and in the band room, he would sit down at the piano and work on ideas for songs. That's fantastic, man. Take that, Mr. Holland's opus, right? So it's an instrumental. There won't be any lyrics up, but normally I'd have the lyrics up. Let's check it out. Let's Go, It's Summertime. James Reese and the Progressions. What a great tune, that dun, 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 dun. It just is so infectious, man. Just really well done, obviously. It's like a lot of songs of this genre. The drumming is kind of guiding you through the whole thing. The horn sections are fantastic, but never goes all in, just kind of simmers underneath, and I really like that about it. So a really good choice to start this list off. Our second song is Oh Child by the 5 Stairsteps from Step by Step by Step in 1970. The 5 Stairsteps, known as the first family of soul and later the Invisible Man's Band, were an American Chicago soul group made up of 5 of Betty and Clarence Burke Sr.'s 6 children. Alohi Jean, maybe that's Alohi Jean. I don't know how to say that name. I've never seen that name. The only female in the group, and then the brothers Clarence Jr., James, Dennis, and Kenny, and briefly QB. They're best known for this song, which is listed at number 402 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. Went gold in the U.S., silver in the U.K., though. Several of these we're going to come across went gold in the U.S. That means 1 million sold. It's written by Stan Vincent. The 5 Stairsteps had previously had some success recording in Chicago with Curtis Mayfield, but when Curtis's workload precluded his continuing to work with the group, they were assigned to Stan Vincent, who was an in-house producer for Buddha Records. Their debut collaboration was originally supposed to be, the A-side was going to be Dear Prudence, and this was going to be the B-side, which of course Stan had written. However, it broke out in the key markets of Philly and Detroit to rise as high as number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the summer of 1970, so obviously this became the one play. Billboard ranked it as the number 21 song of 1970, and it is considered the signature song of the 5 Stairsteps. On this one, we got lead vocals by Clarence Burke Jr. and James Burke, backing by Kenny, Alohi, and Dennis, guitars by Hugh McCracken and Clarence Burke Jr., bass by Kenny Burke, keyboards by Richard T., and drums by a guy who's going to be on several of these songs, Bernard Purdie. All right, let's check it out. Ooh Child. I definitely knew that song. I knew, well, there's not a lot of lyrics to it, right? But it's sung so well. There's so much smoothness to it. But seen it in movies for sure, you know, and it harkens up civil rights and those things. Ooh Child, things are going to get better. We just kind of keep going along this realm, and I don't know if that really plays out 50 plus years later, unfortunately. I mean, it does to some extent, and it did maybe a little bit more than it does now here in the States. The horn section was great, but the drumming by Bernard Purdie was fantastic on that song. Yeah, I don't know who's on the brass section because it was not accredited here, but you know, the basic premise of it, as I said, in the chorus is just over and over. Someday, yeah, we'll get it together and we'll get it done. Someday when your head is much lighter. Someday, yeah, we'll walk in the rays of a beautiful sun. Someday when the world is much brighter. So yeah, things are going to get better, right? That's what they're encouraging us through this song. Great choice right here. Now, we just talked about the 5 stair steps and working with Curtis Mayfield. We got Curtis Mayfield up next. Wild and Free from the Curtis album in 1970, his debut solo album, after, of course, being with the Impressions. And that album is actually number 275 on the Rolling Stones 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. I don't even know their info on the song, so let's check it out. Wild and Free. Wow, man, that song is freaking great, right? And I mean, shout out to Curtis. He's going to be a little different than a lot of people we see on this list. And because he was allowed to be, right? Many of these other artists might have wanted to write their own songs. Maybe they didn't. But he not only wrote everything on this album, he also composed it all. The brass section on here is fantastic. And it's not overdone, but it accentuates that constant repeating, message in here. Wild and free is the way I want to be. Dun, 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 dun. Making a new day, leading in a new way. Respect for the steeple, power to the people, setting down the old crew, bringing in the brand new. Wild and free with peace finally. Wild and free is the way I want my life. Nature's way for me without pain and strife. So he's declaring, man, remember, this is early 70s, man, and civil rights in the U.S. are it's a horrible situation. Tons of violence, tons of oppression. He says, fighting what is wrong across the world as well as home, but respect for everybody's right could be really out of sight. Our great obligations would not be mad situations if the young would be listened to for what they really know is true. Man, I'll tell you what, that's a fantastic song. What a great choice. Next up, we have an artist I've never heard of. We got Cornelius Brothers and Sister Rose, Too Late to Turn Back Now, from their self-titled album in 1972. I found that they were an American soul singing group from Florida, formed in 1970 and gained popularity in the early 70s, composed of siblings Carter Cornelius, Eddie Cornelius, and Rose Cornelius, who were joined by sister Billie Joe Cornelius in 1972. This song is the follow-up single to their debut hit, Treat Her Like a Lady. It had been previously recorded in 1970 on a different label. Written by Eddie, it had great success upon its re-release, peaked at number 5 on the US R&B and number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, kept out of number 1 by the great Bill Withers and the song Lean on Me. It's ranked as the 34th biggest U.S. hit of 1972. It was a gold record. Remember, that means selling over 1 million copies in the U.S. and also featured in the fantastic 2018 film Black Klansman. Too Late to Turn Back Now. They repeat that chorus 6 times in the song. It's just through in your head, man. But basically, this guy is falling in love with this girl. His mama warned him that you should not do that, man, because she's going to break your heart and put you in misery. And he says, since I met this little woman, I feel like it's happened to me, and I'm telling you. And then we get in that chorus, it's too late to turn back now. I believe I'm falling in love. So really, it's 6 lines in the chorus, but it's 3 lines that repeat themselves. So in theory, he repeats that 12 times throughout this song, and it really works and is effective because the backing vocals are just so good, man, and his voice, it's just such a smooth song, man. Never heard this song, never heard of them. A fantastic choice. Now another connection a little bit. We got Use Me by Bill Withers from Still Bill in 1972. If you remember, the previous song, Too Late to Turn Back Now, was kept out of number 1 by Bill's classic Lean on Me, and now here Bill is showing up. This was written and composed by Bill. It was his second biggest hit in the U.S., reaching number 2, being kept from number 1 by both Ben by Michael Jackson and My Ding-a-Ling by Chuck Berry. Went gold in the U.S., remember, 1 million copies. It's noted for its repeated bass figure, which is heard alongside a complex rhythm in the percussion. You got Bill on vocals and guitar, Ray Jackson on clavinet and Wurlitzer electric piano, Benoist Blackman on guitar, Melvin Dunlap on bass, and James Gadsden on drums and percussion. In 2015, Bill had this to say about this song. He said, "That's fun stuff. That's just talking trash. That's just a song about being a little playful, a little arrogant, and a little cool. Unless you're one of those people that were born popular, I was a chronic stutterer until I was 28. I avoided the phone, so I wasn't this popular guy. I remember being young and all the girls tell me, 'You're too nice.' I didn't understand that. So over the course of time, you say, okay, you want to play? Okay, let's play. Use Me taps into that. I try to be nice, now let's get nasty. That song came quick. I was working in McDonnell Douglas out in Long Beach, and the noise of the factory, they had women working there. I crossed that line there thinking, y'all want a nasty boy? Well, here I come. And then Bill started laughing in the interview. So let's check this one out. Bill Withers, Use Me. Fantastic guitar and bass work in that song, right? That repeating riff that just underlaid the whole song is just, it's kind of infectious. You know, I can hear it in my head again. A lot of these songs have that in common. The song itself, you know, I look at all my lyrics through Genius.com, who's the best by far, I think, for lyrics. But you can annotate on there, and that's where sometimes, you can see what artists said about it when it's sourced and stuff. But anybody can get on there and comment anything, and there's a whole comment if you ever look up this song, or if you're following along with me, as I know some of you do. I don't believe any of that stuff because they're all saying it's about drugs. It's about a girl. I mean, Bill's talked about this as he did in that quote, and he's talked about in other places specifically. It's about a girl using him, and his friends are trying to tell him this girl's using you, but at the very end you realize, no, he's using her too for, some things. So he understands that he wants her to use him because he's getting what he wants as well. So I thought that was a really smooth song, a really good song. Now we're up to Give Me Just a Little More Time from Chairman of the Board off the Chairman of the Board album in 1970. It's the first track on there. They're an American-Canadian, Detroit, Michigan-based soul music group who saw their greatest commercial success in the 1970s. General Johnson had a hit as a lead singer of The Showman in the early 60s when Holland Dozier Holland HDH left Motown in 1967 to establish their own Invictus Hot Wax group of record labels. They teamed Johnson up with Eddie Custis, Danny Woods, and Canadian-born Harrison Kennedy as the company's new flagship act under the name, of course, Chairman of the Board. This went to 3 in the U.S., was a gold record. Remember, it sold 1 million. It's their debut single, written and produced by Brian Holland, Lamont Dozier, Edward Holland Jr., and Ron Dunbar. Because of the then still pending lawsuit against HGH from their former employers, Motown, the trio credited themselves with the pseudonym Edith Wayne for this song and many other early releases on the label. It features General Johnson as the narrator, backed by the rest of the group, and also, just of note, members of Motown's in-house band, the Great Funk Brothers, who played on all of HDH's previous hits, played on this recording as well as many others they did on this label. Let's check it out. It's not on Spotify. The next 2 songs are not on Spotify. You can search them, but they're grayed out because they're not available. So I'll go over to YouTube and grab the audio of this one. Give Me Just a Little More Time, Chairman of the Board. Very HDH, right? And not only in the subject matter of he's basically telling her, hey, let's not rush to anything here. Don't leave me. Like, give me just a little more time. Like, this is going to work out. You'd regret it later on down the line. He's just pleading with her. The General's voice, it takes a little bit for me to get used to, right? I like it. You can feel the pain in his voice, right? The pleading. So the backing vocals were fantastic. The brass, obviously, on there. And I mean, whenever you got the Funk Brothers, man, the instrumentation is going to be absolutely top-notch. So really good choice there. Next up, we have another one that's not on Spotify. We have One Ads by Honeycomb from their Soul Tapestry album in 1971. Honeycomb was an R&B and soul girl group formed by lead singer Edna Wright. She's the sister of Darlene Love, who's also a singer, with Carolyn Willis and Shelley Clark in 1968. They're best remembered for this song, which went to number 1. They were the premier female group for Hot Wax Records, operated by Holland Dozier Holland, after they had departed from Motown. So Cat Dub did a wonderful job of not only choosing these songs, but connecting them. This one was a million seller, went to number 1, like I said, on the Hot 100. Also went number 1 on the R&B charts. Was written by Greg Perry, General Norman Johnson, yeah, that general from the previous song, and Barney Perkins. It's produced by staff producer Greg Perry, who wrote part of it, and features a young Ray Parker Jr. of Ghostbusters and other 80s fame on rhythm guitar. The idea for the song started when studio engineer Barney Perkins, while looking through the classified section of a newspaper, suggested that someone write a song about one ads. Perry, as producer and songwriter for the project, felt that idea might work. They brought in Johnson, leader, of course, of chairman of the board, to contribute to the writing. So lead vocals, Edna Wright, backing vocals, Shelley Clark and Carolyn Willis. One Ads by Honeycomb. Edna Wright's lead vocals are the star of this, right? The story is, she's with this guy, but he's cheating on her. He's either out drinking, cheating, or playing cards, and thinks that she doesn't know about it. So she's going to put an ad in the One Ads for somebody to come and rescue her. So a very clever way to write this song. It wasn't even originally written for Honeycomb. That's a little bit longer story, but it found its way to them and was a number 1 hit. And I can see why, man. A lot of power in there. The same stuff I've said on other stuff. Great brass work, great instrumentation, but the backing vocals on there with Edna's just powerful lead vocal is really the showcase of that song. All right, next up we've got You've Been Gone Too Long from Ann Sexton on her Loving You, Loving Me album in 1973. She's an American soul singer who recorded mainly in the 1970s. Her biggest hit was You're Going to Miss Me. Remember, this was You've Been Gone Too Long, but seems kind of like a similar thing. Which that other song reached the R&B chart in 1973, so she did have a little bit of success on the charts. You've Been Gone Too Long by Ann Sexton. A little connection to the previous song by Honeycomb, because this guy is out. She's just telling him, you've been gone too long. You might as well just leave. And then halfway through the song, we figure out, she said, I found a man who will love me better. So this guy's out. The spark isn't there anymore. And she's telling him just to be gone. Thought the brass section was good in here. But I also thought the guitar and the bass guitar work in here were awfully good too, which has not been showcased in a ton of these songs. So I thought that was good. Got 2 songs left on this selection or survey of top 10 R&B hidden gems. Remember, they're not in any sort of order. We've got them in a Tear Your Playhouse Down by Ann Peebles from her I Can't Stand the Rain album in 1974. She's an American singer and songwriter who gained celebrity for her Memphis soul albums of the 70s for Hive Records. 2 of her most popular songs are I Can't Stand the Rain, which she wrote with her husband Don Bryant and radio broadcaster Bernie Miller, and this song. In 2014, she was inducted into the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. No small feat there. Memphis is a musical city, as most of you know. This is written by Memphis-based songwriter Earl Randall, but many of you who are my age might know this as a hit in 1984 for English singer Paul Young, when Paul Young was absolutely huge. He was even on the We Are the World prominently in 1985. It was produced by Willie Mitchell and performances by the High Rhythm section and was made at Royal Studios in Memphis. It went to number 31 on the R&B chart. All right, keeping with the theme of going after these players, right? This guy is cheating on Ann, and she's just letting him know that one of these days he's going to come back and she's going to tear his playhouse down room by room, and he ain't going to want to do what he's doing anymore. In other words, turnabout is fair play, my man. But I thought the arrangement on this was really good, right? You had a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, the horns in the background are good, but I thought the guitar work was fantastic. She sounded good. I liked her delivery, right? You got to deliver this song with a little bit of, I don't want to say cockiness or arrogance, but a little bit of confidence. Like, you know what, man? I'm on to you, man, and here's what's going to happen to you. So even though you think you're pulling something on me or it might hurt me, I'm going to show you, man. So I thought that was a good selection. And our final selection, the great Nina Simone. It bees that way sometimes from Silk and Soul in 1967. It is the first track on this album. You do have Bernard Purdie on drums here too. You have Nina on piano and vocals, Gene Taylor on bass, Eric Gale and Rudy Stevenson on guitar, Ernie Hayes on piano and harpsichord, and Sammy Lowe is the arrangements conductor. Really looking forward to finishing this off with Nina. It bees that way sometimes, Nina Simone, keeping with the theme of the last several songs. This guy's gone, right? He's out with it starts out he's out with his hat, right? He's got his hat, made himself hard to find. Doesn't mean you should go crazy. If it bees that way sometimes, find yourself another love who will treat you good and kind. Return the love he gives to you. It also bees that way sometimes, baby. Yes, it does. When you think you found a love and you have peace of mind, somebody else steals his heart. Yes, it also bees that way sometimes. Don't let the problems of this world drive you slowly out of your mind. Just smile and look at the problem and say, it bees that way sometimes, bees that way sometimes. And I think that was the overall theme of like, look, man, I'll clean it up here. Stuff happens. And this guy is not your whole world, even though he seems like it. Don't worry about it, man. He's out there playing around on you. Just roll with it and find somebody else who's not going to do that to you. Nina's power in her voice, obviously. I thought the instrumentation was great. I thought Bernard's drumming on here was fantastic. So a really great way to finish off this top 10 hidden R&B gems with some soul and funk thrown in here. We get to my favorite tracks, which is pretty tough on this list, right? Because I liked every one of these songs. I only knew one of the songs. I only knew part of it from a movie. I'll get to that one in a minute because, yeah, it's going to make this list. But, man, I liked all of these. We'll narrow it down a little bit. Honorable mentions, Too Late to Turn Back Now, Cornelius Brothers, and Sister Rose. One Ads by Honeycomb. And this last song, It Bees That Way Sometimes, Nina Simone. My favorites, Oh Child by the Five Stair Steps, and that was the song I knew, at least from a movie. And my favorite on this whole list, Wild and Free by the great Curtis Mayfield. So what a great job by Ann Cat Dub. Let me know what you guys think of these songs. What are your favorites? What's some other stuff I should check out from this time period and genre? And until next time, guys, I will see you.